In North Texas in particular, it's great to see another initiative working, trying to connect to our system and focusing on Fort Worth to Dallas through Arlington, multiple stations. We're excited about that. So our project, we believe, will be the first in the country to drive this, and when it's successful, and even before it's successful, should drive other opportunities for high-speed rail deployment and mobility within Texas. It's a world-class technology for Texas. It's safe, reliable, and can provide a productive experience for our customers. The headline here is world-class technology. It's been deployed with Japanese bullet trains, as we refer to it. It's the Shinkansen N700. It's been deployed for over 50 years in Japan. Its operating history is impeccable. Zero injuries or fatalities from operating over 50 years. Its on-time service record annually is less than a minute off schedule. And that's talking about 400 trains throughout the entire system for Japan Central Railway. So it's tremendous. The system also is safe because it's a dedicated railway. It's isolated. There's no interactions with vehicles, people, or animals along the right of way. It's either elevated or depressed below interactions. So we're moving from the concept to development. This is not intended to be too detailed for you, but it shows that we've been working through with our regulators multiple potential corridors for alignment. And these are the two that have been studied most recently. We've narrowed it down from a handful down to these two. Just last week, the Federal Railroad Administration identified a single alignment for us. And it shows this one here. We refer to this as the utility corridor. And that's important to us because we're trying to minimize our impact on the communities. And we're trying to align this rail next to an existing transmission line right away as large a portion of the region as possible. Again, trying to mitigate impacts. So now that we're down to this one study, one corridor study, we're now focused on finding the final alignment. Where will the tracks be set? And that's the question that a lot of people outside this room are very concerned about, particularly those in the mid-counties, as we refer to them. So hopefully we're moving into the next phase, studying this one route. There are multiple alternatives. There's a lot of commonality to those alternatives. But we'll have a final alignment, we believe, our target is by the end of this year, so we can begin engaging landowners. And that's the most important part of our process and execution, is not only obtaining our approvals, but also working with landowners to obtain the right of way, particularly in a commercially driven transaction is our goal. So anytime you touch a person's property, I'm a rural landowner, I know what it's like to have land and have others come and talk about your land. It's deeply personal, and we take that responsibility seriously. And we understand the burden of it, and we plan to meet with every landowner face-to-face in a transparent fashion, in a clear fashion, and make sure that we understand their concerns about their property and about access. So once we finish the approvals, which include the environmental impact statement as well as the operating rules, it's called the RPA, Rules of Particular Applicability, which means what governs our daily operations, we'll be able to begin construction. There is no current rules for operating a train at 200 miles an hour in the United States, so we're having those rules written around this project and around other projects that are proposed to implement. So one of the challenges that I've faced, I've often asked that question, what is your biggest challenge? And I think of all the different activities we have to do, but the biggest challenge I have is taking an abstract idea to most Texans and making it feel tangible. So we've come up with some graphics that I've got up on the screen. This is what we view as an elevation of a typical farm-to-market road interaction, illustrating a couple of points. One, it can be attractive, and two, that we expect every public road that exists today to stay open and operating in urban areas and in rural environments. And that's one of the biggest questions we get. But we're a transportation company. We're about moving people and goods and not interfering with the movement of goods or people in all the communities we touch. So this is a grade, we call this a Berman grade elevation or execution of our rail system. It gives you a sense of some of the proportion. So this is the second question. Are you going to cut my property in half? Do we have access to our own fields? And the answer is yes. Not only do we want to keep roads open, but we want to make sure that landowners understand we intend to provide access to their property throughout the duration of our project and through our operating period. Just in this example here, you're looking at what is the length of about 800-foot train, and there's 3 different pass-throughs for equipment, wildlife, and people. 3 different sizes. Any kind of farm implement you can see on the left is a large opening that would allow any sized equipment to move through, and then there's different sizes for different means that we employ. So just in the length of a train, 800 feet, you got multiple examples of providing access. And we believe, fundamentally, in the easy movement of goods and people for productivity in Texas. So finally, a third example here is another view into how access works for landowners and for the urban impact of our system. This is what we call the elevated viaducts. Looks a lot like some of the freeway construction we've seen in our communities. Point of the application of this will be largely in urban areas, as we enter the urban areas, as well as when we cross wetlands and deal with topographic changes. You can see in this example there are roads that cross under as well as parallel these tracks. So it's all about access and continuing to provide access. So now we looked at the system and where we stand with the project, you may be wondering, why does Texas need this project now? The answer is kind of simple. We're a great state and we're growing like crazy. Our population is large. Houston and Dallas combined about 12 million people, forecasted to be about 24 million people in 2035. Incredible opportunity. We're a right-to-work state. We have favorable tax laws. It's fun to live here. I've been here 3 times in my career and I keep coming back. I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could, is what I tell my wife. And it's really important that we support the future growth of Texas. It's also important to note the position of Texas in the world. It is the 2nd most powerful state from an economic perspective and a political perspective in the country. Investing in its future, continuing to attract commerce, and providing ways for Texans to move throughout the state will help it become the #1 most powerful state in the country. So when it succeeds, it'll really have an impact. So urban density is another impact of our growth. You've seen metropolitan areas, rural communities suffering and growing, or not suffering, growing from all the inbound growth and population explosions. It's caused urban sprawl, which is good for lots of different reasons, but it provides transportation challenges. Allowing different systems that allow people to move in mass transit forms promotes urban density. That's great for millennials who don't want to own cars and don't want to get their driver's licenses until they're 20 or 21. And it also allows businesses to concentrate in communities and urban centers to grow stronger. It's time to act now to prevent future congestion. TxDOT expects traffic to double on I-45 by 2035. That means 33% slower speeds in our biggest communities and between our biggest communities. It means an average commute of 6.5 hours instead of 4 hours to Houston. We have to invest now to handle our growth and protect our future. So 7 decades ago, the passenger vehicle killed passenger rail. I don't expect high-speed rail to return the favor in 2021 when we start selling tickets. There's plenty of room for air transportation, surface transportation with modes of highways, as well as local rail, metro systems, as well as high-speed rail. We have to keep moving Texans throughout Texas on multiple forms of transportation. We bring more than transportation options. We bring big benefits to Texas. The numbers reflect $10 billion of direct economic impact as our early estimate for this project. We think it'll be more than that, particularly if you factor in the secondary effects and the tertiary effects. We're talking simply direct, $10 billion coming into our economy in 2017 and 2021. 10,000 construction jobs for 4 years, 40,000 full-time equivalent jobs, employing Texans, high-paying, good jobs, helping build Texas and protect its future. We anticipate $120 million of direct impact once we're operating, just through our investments in our operations and maintenance programs. That's big, and we want to bring more. And there is more to the story. Millions of dollars of tax-based revenue. As a private company, we are taxable. that investment into our real property and our improved assets infrastructure will be taxable. And we will be generating sales tax from ticket sales, as well as funding personal and real property taxes. And that will be a very big impact, particularly in the communities through which we call mid-counties, where those cities' budgets are constrained. A big portion of our rail system will be deployed there, and they will be seeing revenues from that with very little drain on their systems. Emergency management systems are one of the biggest concerns in the rural communities that we're engaged with. They have growing populations, shrinking budgets, or more demands for the same budget, and they're concerned about how they respond to their community's needs. The Federal Railroad Administration will require that we have a system in place, emergency response system, that is adequate in case there's some sort of event on our track system. So we will be investing in training and providing equipment to these rural communities, improving their ability to respond to events in their own communities. And that is a big benefit to those communities. And when we're finished, we'll have deployed a new high-tech industry in Texas, creating between 500 and 1,000 permanent jobs related to operating one of the most sophisticated rail systems in the world. So, making it happen. The economics work. That's the biggest question, the second biggest question I get. Who's going to fund it? Is it work? The answer is yes. We have the right customer experience. This is the right market. And we will put Texas on a global stage and attract the capital to make this project happen. It all starts with the right market. Dallas, Houston. It's a long drive or short flight, but both equal unproductive time. Our value proposition to our customers will be productivity, convenience, and comfort. We'll talk about that in a moment. But this city pair of 12 million people, some forecasts show 500,000 people per week transiting between Houston and Dallas. And we expect that to grow as the population grows, as traffic increases. It's a great opportunity to penetrate a market. The other important factor about this market is it's got two large economies. Most deployments of high-speed rail start with a single metropolitan area and have a feeder pattern more for resembling a commuter style. We have two vibrant economies with shared revenue and opportunity between those two cities. It's a two-way pull, as we refer to it. So the right experience. So fast matters, but so does productivity, so does comfort, safety. Everything we think about in our system, from our basic infrastructure to our signaling to our vehicle track interaction, is all about the customer experience. Can they be productive? What will they feel as they transition through this type of infrastructure versus that? Yes, safety is a factor at the operating level as well as inside the trains. We want to make sure people feel secure as they sit down. Our experience in the majority of our system will be 2x2 in coach seating. So you'll have an equivalent of space, similar to what you have in the first class seat on an aircraft today or a passenger vehicle that's not a subcompact. So creating an environment's terrific, creating the reliability, and more importantly, delivering a productive experience and delivering time and value back to our customers. It's also important to know this is a train for all people. We're going to have very sophisticated demand management pricing models, not unlike the airlines, the hotels, car rental companies, and today even in restaurants you see variable price demand. And so we'll engage that. So we envision business people paying a business fare. We envision a college student with dirty laundry on his back going home to see mom on off-peak hours at very low rates and increasing our ridership. So we're putting Texas on the global stage. It's first of a kind. We talked about that, not only by deploying in Texas, but we're being watched by capital around the world. There's a gigantic appetite for infrastructure investment around the world, and particularly on assets in the U.S. There's over $100 billion of, quote, dry powder available to invest in U.S. infrastructure assets, and there's not enough transactions or asset opportunity to meet that demand. We're going to serve up an opportunity that's tailor-made for those investors. We believe there'll be U.S. pension funds, hopefully those from our region here as well as the rest of the U.S., and attract attention from Canada, from the UK, all over Asia, Australia, is a global marketplace. It's our job to address them in a way they can understand the risk, the opportunity, let them clearly understand that Texas wants this project and is supporting it. That's why it's so important for Texans to be investing in Texas. That's why it's so important for our legislative session to end this year with no negative bias against high-speed rail in Texas. We want them to feel welcome and understand that we understand their risks, their perspective on risk, and address those. We've already begun receiving inquiries from pension funds and other investors interested in providing equity as well as debt. We think this will be sort of the order of magnitude of $10 to $12 billion of capital to build this. There's soft costs on top of that. So we're going to be attracting tens of billions of dollars of capital. We expect that to be probably 30% equity, 70% debt. Those pension funds that I referenced, sovereign wealth funds, providing the equity, and we will be looking towards the Japanese Bank for International Cooperation, the equivalent of our Ex-Im Bank. They've already indicated they'd like to make a loan or interested in making a loan in the range of $5 billion for the project. We'll also approach the Federal Railroad Administration and target programs that the Department of Transportation has set aside specifically to pair debt, federal program debt, with private equity risk. And we believe we'll capitalize this project successfully in 2017 and begin construction. So the way forward from us, you're going to see more Texans investing in Texas. It's all the right for all. This excites me for all the right reasons too. It's just a big idea, and you can't push that on a state, on a region. It has to be pulled in. And finding sponsors that believe in the future of Texas is tremendous. We'll continue to make market-driven decision making. It's important that we keep a commercial focus, but also make sure we keep a customer-centric focus. We'll have clear, concise communications. That'll be with folks like you, elected officials, business leaders, and landowners that we impact. And continue to be private equity risk from the beginning of this project through the end. So with that, we'd like for you to keep in touch with us. I designed this talk so that you all can leave here today informed, but also want to keep you informed. We'll reach out to you when we think that's necessary. We want to feel that you to feel you can access us at any time. So, I'll take a risk. By show of hands, I would ask you, who's in favor of bringing high-speed rail to Texas?